of channelinginc.com. This is the Ask Ken show, and this is my host, Kevin Hughes. He will be basically hosting us tonight, asking the questions. So that the way that this works is what you do is you go ahead, if you see us, just ask any questions right now. So you type in your questions, and Kevin's going to see the questions come in. So please ask lots of questions to do with spirituality, not necessarily to do with yourself and what's going on in your personal life, but anything you want to know to do with spirituality, just ask it in that question, the question. And what I will do is I will be channeling the answers. So that's the way that the Ask Ken show works. And so yeah, if you're watching right now, just go ahead, type in some questions. And also, if you're watching, so please type in where you're from. Say hello.
Yes.
Yeah, say hello.
Yes.
We want to know where you're from, where you're calling in from. We'll give you a shout out if we can. But this is all like participation, action. So this is what makes this show happen is you, the audience. You get to drive the conversation. What do you want to know about spirituality? How awesome is that? So
And
go ahead.
no question is out of bounds as long as it's not personal. You don't. This isn't the show to ask what my spirit guides want me to do. This is more general questions.
Yeah, to do with spirituality, you want to flesh something out, ask some myth-busting questions, or just anything at all to do with, anything at all. I'll ask it. Even personal development questions like, how to get the best sleep, or meditation or exercise.
What, you saying that because I got these bags under my eyes? Is that what?
Well, I got bags other places, but yeah.
Ow!
No, I'm not. For me, I'm not saying you. I said I got bags other places. So those bags under your eyes look pretty compared to what I got.
Okay, I'm leaving that alone and moving
I
right
got
along.
baggage everywhere I go.
He got baggage. He carries his backpack with a bunch of bricks in him.
Shall we change the screen view, or?
Yes, let's change the screen view to that one.
Yeah.
There we go. And well, hi, Shelly. Shelly is, I always get this wrong. Is she from Medicine Hat or is she from Lethbridge? Which one, Ken?
Where are you from, Shelly?
Shelly, you should know, Ken. You should know. She's tuned in every show, and I get it wrong every show.
If I memorized all like their guides' names, where they're from, all that stuff. Yeah. So what's really cool is, like, if you don't know, I actually do one-on-one sessions with clients, and I actually take them through the process of learning to channel at really advanced levels, super, super high. This is what I do full-time for a living. And then I also have my certification workshops on the weekend. You can go to channelinginc.com to go and see all the events that I'm doing. I do some in-person events. I do a lot of online events. I do intro workshops. I teach animal communication, you name it, anything and everything you can imagine to do with channeling. I teach it. I've decided to focus my life on this. And my mission is to make this world a better place by teaching people by the masses how to channel. So welcome to the Ask Ken show. If you're just tuning in, please ask some questions in the chat box. And those are the questions that Kevin's going to ask me, and then I can channel the answers. And the people watching are going to be driving the show. So that's how we do the show. So please, and if you haven't done so already, mention yourself, say hi, type in there where you're from and your name and all that. Go ahead, Kevin.
Okay, first, Shelly wants to know about sleep. What's the best way to get a good night's sleep?
I could ask that in lots of joking ways. But don't go there. Really, honestly, what I would suggest is have some wind down time before bed. Like, try to like half an hour to an hour before bed, like your ideal, what time you want to go to sleep, like actually fall asleep at. I would suggest like try to, have less screen time, less input of noise. What really helps me is like kind of reading. Also, like if you like to do anything like prayers or channeling your spirit guides or anything like that are always good. What else can help is like meditation time, where you just like work on calming your mind. Oh, do you want to know a little tip on meditation?
Yes. I struggle with meditation.
If you fall asleep, guess what that means?
You were meditating.
It just means you need more effing sleep. That's all it means. And, it sounds like a funny topic, but I actually came to this realization when way back in 2012 or 2013. I was meditating like every single day, twice a day for 3 months straight. And it was really hard on myself because I kept falling asleep. I would get up an hour before the household would get up, and I'd meditate like 4 in the morning, and then I'd meditate another hour before bed. And many of those times, especially the first 2 months, I was falling asleep almost every single time, and I was really hard on myself and beating myself up. And then finally I realized, I'm like, no, Ken, it's just because you need more sleep. So I actually started to get more sleep. And then sure enough, when I did go to meditate, I would actually be able to stay awake more times than not every time, but more times than not. And it's
Nice.
okay that most of us are sleep deprived and we don't even know it until we actually just slow down and we're like, whoa, I'm actually
Ken,
really tired.
Ken, you're deprived of a lot of things. Sleep isn't one of them.
Well, you know how I'm not a morning person. So
But mind you, you do stay up till like 5 in the morning and then sleep. So
yeah, I try not to anymore. Oh, and another thing is important of sleep is also to get regular sleep. So our bodies actually thrive off of getting like a significant, 8 to 9 hours of sleep on a regular basis. So what happens is we actually need that REM sleep, and the REM sleep kicks in every 90 minutes or so, and then it alternates between REM sleep, non-REM sleep, and that's the rapid eye movement, and that's when we often are like in that kind of like either dream state or lucid dream state kind of situation. And that's actually, our body needs that. If we go an
nice.
extended period of time without that, we can actually go clinically insane and all that. So it's actually really important to also healthy foods, all that kind of stuff, your exercise, all that stuff's really good for sleep too. And just like a lot of self-care and self-love and reducing stress, they're all indirectly related to sleep.
Makes sense.
And then for me, like the honest thing is if there's things keeping me up at night, I ask myself, okay, what is it that needs to be healed or cleared around this? Because I use it as an opportunity. Anytime I get triggered or upset, like those things running through my mind in the middle of the night, 2, 3 in the morning, I'm like, okay, what needs to be healed around this? And I try self-healing. That's why I'm a big fan of trying to learn as many healing modalities as you can. So it's self-empowering, and you can try to use as many of those. And if it still bothers me, especially after a few days, then I reach out to another healer, and I do my work on a regular weekly, if not monthly basis for sure. For sure. I'm constantly doing um, my own self-healing, plus I'm working with other healers. So yeah,
Super
hopefully
important.
those help. Yeah, there's a lot more I could talk about sleep. I've actually done entire like half-hour talks on
I
just
was
that
going to
one.
say you could probably go on about this for the whole hour because it is that broad of a subject. Oh, I think you might have frozen there, Ken. Hopefully, everybody can still hear me. We'll wait to see if Ken unfreezes. Hey, Rod Peterson from Boca Raton, Florida. Great that you tuned in. I will get your question asked soon as we get Ken back. Sorry, folks, a little bit of technical difficulties. Not sure what is going on. Give us 2 secs, folks. It will come back, I promise. Okay, Ken is logging out. So, Rod Peterson from Boca Raton, Florida, thanks for tuning in, my friend. Is Messiah, where you from? Is also Mo, thanks for tuning in. Where you tuning in from, Mo? Angie Stewart, all the way from the west coast of Canada, just outside of Vancouver. Thank you so much for tuning in, Angie. We're just waiting for Ken to log back in, and we'll continue the show. My apologies. Rod, you're not the only one that has technical difficulties. It's technology. It's going to happen. Waiting and seeing what happens here. Mo is in Manitoba. Welcome, Mo. Where I'm heading to Manitoba, actually. When am I going there? October. We're heading out for a Winnipeg Blue Bombers game. And is in Hawaii. Beautiful. What part of Hawaii are you in, Ms.? I love Hawaii. One of my favorite places. Ken is probably frantically trying to get back on. For everybody else that's tuning in, where are you from? While we wait for Ken to come back in, hopefully he will be back soon. It's usually me that has the technical difficulties, and Ken just kind of whizzes through it. Sorry, I'm just texting Ken to see if he's going to be back quickly. You're earning your money. Money? I get paid for this? Oh, we have to talk about that when Ken comes back in. Did I simply ask the question in this? Yes, is. If you have a question, simply type it into the comment section. I will see them, and when Ken gets back, we will get to your question. So that goes for everybody. If anybody has a question, keep it general. This is a general show. This isn't what is my spirit guide's going to do for me today. This is what is a spirit guide? That kind of generality. And once Ken comes back, he will jump in and start answering questions. Let me just see what's going on with them. It's always so hard when something goes wrong with a live show. And then you're just kind of going, oh, hey, we can just talk. So now you just get to hear Kevin talk for however long I feel like it. So, yeah, I saw that question. So you're asking me if I was ever encouraged to keep this a secret. I had people tell me that it's probably not the best idea to talk about it. And what we're talking about is the ability to channel. I know earlier you said a gift, Ken. I don't think it's a gift. I think everybody that living on Earth has the ability to learn to channel. That's what Mr. Lewicki does. He teaches people to learn how to channel, so you can channel your spirit guides, channel loved ones on the other side. I learned quickly, though, it's not something you should keep a secret. You should share it. It's one of those, the more people that know what you do, the more people will want to tune in. We have Mr. Lewicki. I'm going to switch this to that. Mr.
Hey,
Ken,
buddy.
sorry,
Hey.
we lost you.
I'm back.
You're
Welcome.
back from the, I was going to say the dead, but that would be kind of creepy given what this show is.
Actually, pretty common.
So,
welcome back, everyone. I'm back. Hopefully you kept them entertained, Kevin.
You know what? I was just babbling, so I'm like, you guys have to put up with me babbling until Ken gets back.
Well, did we get any questions that came in?
We did. We had some good questions come in. I was just Rod Peterson from Boca Raton, Florida. I met Rod up in Canmore at your expo that time.
Yeah.
In July. Anyway, he wants to know if anybody encouraged you from the beginning to keep your gift, quotation marks, a secret. I kind of explained it's not a gift. So I'm going to let you run with that one for a little bit.
The answer is no. But
okay, next question.
So yeah. Well, like the answer, like I got to a point in my life where I'm like, I don't give a shit what other people think. Like, really, because I'm not going to live my life to satisfy what other people think or how I should live my life. That's the bottom line. I'm like, there's too many people that I can help that need my help. If I stay hidden in the closet, like I have to think, okay, stop being so selfish, Ken, where I'm constantly being in the closet because I'm worried about what other people think. Like, who cares? I don't like, you're going to get the people who, what I've found, not just with me, but also with the thousands of clients I've helped over the years, is that when they do come out of the closet, it's actually quite the opposite of what they expect. The people that they thought would bash them actually support them. And then the other people just don't think. There might be like, of all the clients I've helped, maybe they get like, the odd person might get maybe one person who says something about it. But 99.9% of the time, it's rare that what people are worrying about and fearing what other people will say or think doesn't actually happen or come to fruition. It really doesn't. So like, all I can say, like, I know it's a personal decision and all, but what I found is in this day and age, it's not like when I first had my spiritual awakening back in the early 2000s. This was way less prevalent. It's kind of like yoga. Way back then, yoga was around and all that, but here we are, in 2022, and yoga is way more common. Well, same thing with spirituality. Spirituality is way more common. Everyone knows somebody who's like into Reiki or energy healing, or a psychic, or that everyone knows someone who's into that. So it's not like it was 20, 30, 50 years ago.
Yes.
And a lot more people are way more open to it than then. So I can't live my life always worried about what other people think. And I remember watching this one video with Wayne Dyer on it, and he was talking about a conference that he had just done. And one of the people in the audience came up to him afterwards. There was 1,000 people in that audience, and one person was really upset because it wasn't what they expected. They were expecting different. And in this interview, he was talking about, well, if I changed and modified it to adapt to this one guy, then other people would be upset. But I'm just going to be me and be what's truth for me, and not worry about like trying to satisfy and please everyone.
Makes sense.
I hope that encourages you, because I feel you. I know where you're coming from. It's a real thing. I get it. All I can say is you'd be surprised. You'll have more supporters than you think, and more people out there would be like, I'm so glad, because I have the same things that I'm going through, or I feel like I'm having these same spiritual things happening with me, and I'm glad you're open about it, because I can really relate.
And I think when you're a public figure or have a public platform, it becomes a little bit more, should I or shouldn't I?
I'm fully out there. If you look on any of my social media, I'm full out what I do. This is what I people to channel. I'm hardcore, because for me, it's about a bigger picture. It's about helping people by the thousands. And I know I can help them at a way more profound, deeper level by just being 100% out there and not holding back, like being 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Yeah.
Are you going to get your naysayers? Yeah. But so what?
Sure.
Like, that's not your audience. That's not who you're trying to meet. And you'll get used to like not really paying much attention to them.
Exactly.
Every once in a while I get some hate messages and stuff like this, or blasphemy or whatever, and I'm just like, that's okay. They're allowed to have their opinion. I'm not going to agree with them. That's fine. They're allowed to have it, and so it's okay.
Yeah, well, you were the one that encouraged me to really be out there and on my personal page to step forward, and it was amazing when I did. So Kate, I'm not sure where you're from. No, we're not giving readings today. This isn't like a mini reading show. This is more of a Ask Ken questions about spirituality. If you have a question, I always do that. Just type it into the comment section, and hopefully I'll see it, and we'll get your questions asked. A question from when we were offline during the week here. How does time work in the astral realm?
So interesting thing you mentioned this is because a lot of people go to extremes. They're like, time is like linear, and it's all like constrained, and to some extent it is here on this 3D plane, like here on Earth. However, time, and then there's the other extreme where people are like, oh, time doesn't exist, and I'm like, it does, and even in the astral realm on the other side, it actually does. So let's say Grandpa crosses over to the other side, and then 30 years go by. So then 30 years go by, and then you communicate with Grandpa on the other side 30 years later, and you ask him, okay, well, does time exist on the other side? And he's like, well, yeah, it does. But to him, that 30 years might have only seemed like seconds or minutes to him, because time does exist on the other side. It's different. So it's kind of like the spokes of a wheel. If you turn the spokes of a wheel really fast, it looks like the spokes disappear, but does that mean the spokes aren't there? Well, if you slow it down, you'll see that the actual spokes do exist. So same kind of concept with time in the astral realm on the other side. It actually does exist. It just exists in a different extent. And this is actually really powerful to know, because when you're communicating with, let's say, loved ones, like mediumship, and you're connecting with those loved ones on the other side, they'll answer all these questions for you about time, and that, yeah, time does exist, but it's good to know like their perspective on how they're seeing things with the way that time operates, and also how you can relate on your end. So yeah, it's pretty good question.
Awesome. This is one that should someone close their chakras?
That's a hard no. Okay,
Yeah.
so the reason I bring this up is because a lot of times I've heard of teachers out there or other people saying that, okay, when you open up your chakra, you do the work, and then you close it down. And I'm like, no, never close down your chakras. So in the ideal world, just a little bit for those of you who want to know a bit about chakras, and you can learn this, a trained Reiki master, Reiki trainer, which I've taught Reiki classes. I'm a Reiki master myself, all that stuff. So ideally, we want all our chakras to be open, and we want them to be open in the ideal, size, basically. So we want them to be open, we want them to be flowing, and we want them to be like nice and clear, like in a clear state. So they're all clear. Those are the three ideal statuses for each one of those chakras. And so let's say, for example, sometimes you have a chakra that's under functioning because it's going through a struggle, or it's like just life happens, you get triggered, someone jerk cuts you off on the road and stuff like that, and you're like, oh, and then all of a sudden one of those closed down, or you get into an argument with somebody, stuff like that. So it can happen for a variety of reasons. And then so sometimes what will happen, if one chakra is under functioning, then the ones beside it might be over functioning, so like almost like open too much and trying to work almost too hard to compensate for the one that's a little bit more closed. So ideally, we want all our chakras to be in the optimal size, the optimal flow, and then the optimal clarity, so basically as clear as possible. And then no matter what happens outside of us, no matter what's going on, we always remain in this nice, beautiful, open state. And our chakras, which is also connected to our auric field, and our auric field adds the protection. Then we don't have to worry about being vulnerable and all that other stuff. So yeah, really good question.
Awesome. Angie Stewart from beautiful British Columbia down the West Coast.
Angie.
She wants to know, do your spirit guides, loved ones, etc., ever leave you? If that makes sense to you. I used to feel them around me, but not so much anymore.
Okay, so we need to break this question into two questions.
I figured yeah.
Yeah, so the very first one I'll touch on is loved ones. Okay, no, actually I'll touch on spirit guides because we need to have a bit more comprehension around that. So when we die and we cross over, we'll go to the astral realm to be with our spirit guides, or to be with our soul family. But while we're incarnated, certain members of our soul family will help and assist us here on Earth. Those are our spirit guides. Your spirit guides will never, ever, ever leave you. So let's say my experience has been most people have somewhere between 3 to 5 spirit guides during any one season of their life. Some have 2, some have 6, but in general, it's that 3 to 5 range, not including like other, ancestors and other support, but we're talking actual real spirit guides here. Sometimes, let's say somebody has 4 spirit guides. Sometimes our spirit guides might be busy in the astral realm doing things like learning or other kinds of, there's lots of things. I cover that in my level 2 channeling level 2 workshop with the things that souls can be busy doing in the other side. So let's say 1, maybe 2 might be busy, but they'll never all 4 will step back and leave you all the time. Whereas your loved ones there's a number of things that can happen with them. Like they might come and visit for you a while, and then once they kind of pass along the message, then they might step back, and because they're not your guide, they'll go and continue on. But that doesn't mean they might not come in and visit from time to time and say hi. But they might also be like in the astral realm doing training or doing other things that is more related to their soul family and what's going on. Or they may have incarnated on a different part of the planet or things like that. So then they're not available anymore. The biggest thing, usually what I've noticed that happens with my clients who are like, I can't feel my guides or my loved ones around me anymore, usually has nothing to do with them. It has to do with the person is struggling with either a connection or something going on with them. So we need to do some healing, clearing, and get them reconnected with their guides. So that is actually very common. And that's actually what I'm getting with you, Angie, in your case. It's not to do with your guides.
Yeah, that's probably one of the most common questions I get in a session. Are spirit guides always, and I say always in capital letters, soul family members?
I could confidently say yes. Yeah. And like yes, they are. there is loved ones who might be of other soul family members, but the loved ones who come in aren't necessarily like spirit guides, but they just might want to be there to support you, to help you. But my experience has been, and I do check this regularly with my clients, either in one-on-one sessions or in my group channeling workshops that I do, and pretty like every time, yeah. What happens is when you die and you cross over, you'll go back to the astral realm to be with your soul family. Before you incarnate, you'll be working closely with your soul family onto, where you want to incarnate, any contracts, deals, agreements you want to make, and any life goals or aspirations, things you want to accomplish while you're here and incarnated. All that stuff will be sketched out as a possible opportunities for you to do while you're incarnated. And I say that loosely because it's not set in stone, because you have this magical thing called free will. And then also those around you also have free will. Things like parents, teachers, classmates, you can name it, any kind of people in the community, society. You might move somewhere different, and then you meet different people, and then it's always in flux. And that's more like Akashic Records kind of stuff, but all that's into play. And then while you're incarnated, you have certain members of your soul family who help and assist you. So the answer is yes, pretty much.
Now, our spirit guides, do we choose them, or are they chosen for us?
It's kind of a collaborative thing. So what I've noticed is that a lot of people, they want somebody to be their spirit guide. Like, oh, grandma crossed over, she died, I want her to be my spirit guide. It doesn't really work that way. Like we're talking about, before you incarnate, you work with your soul family members as to who could be potential spirit guides. Again, because when we incarnate, let's say, for example, in 2014, I decided to move from Edmonton to Calgary. But if I had not, and I had stayed in Edmonton, I could have had totally different spirit guides for the next 10, 20, or the remainder of my life. But because I did decide to move to Calgary, my whole trajectory, my whole life path has changed. And now I'm on a different life path, and then different spirit guides might come into play for this other different season of my life, because I have this magical, beautiful thing called free will.
It always comes down to free will.
Yeah, and I a lot of people think like free will is like a bad thing and that, and I'm like, no. I mean, it can be. Don't get me wrong. I've been down that path, but the way that I look at free will, and I hope you can hopefully change your ideas, and I want to use free will as a good thing, as an awesome thing. Like, yes, I have free will, and I want to use it in an empowering way to do awesome things with my life. And when I screw up, because I do, I'm human, we all do. Just what can I do to get myself back on path? What free will can I use to make things right? Or maybe I'm in a totally different trajectory, but that's okay. How can I make the best of where I'm at now on this new trajectory? And giving myself some grace in my journey and my growth, that no, I'm not going to just beat myself up and be hard on myself.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Total sense. Shelley from Lethbridge, so once a loved one is reincarnated, they can't come visit anymore?
No. So basically what happens is, let's say, for example, somebody a loved one dies and crosses over, and then there can be a time at the very, very, very beginning when they first cross over that they're in this, what I call, containment area, while they're processing what it was like to be incarnated. And then after that is done, then they're released to the general public in the astral realm. And usually that's when they're available. And then let's say, just hypothetically, several years go by, and then they decide that they want to incarnate again. So they incarnate on a different part of the planet. And then at that point, they're not available anymore. And the reason why is because it's one of the rules or the laws of the astral realm. And basically what happens is, they don't want you going and finding that baby and then interfering with their life, because they've created new contracts, deals, agreements, new goals and aspirations that they want to do with this lifetime on this other side of the planet. And they don't want you, taking a plane, flying over them and go, oh, there's my son, or they're my husband,
yes,
or my whoever.
Because they're not the same person anymore.
That's right. They're the same soul, but they've created new contracts, new deals, new agreements, new life path, new aspirations. They've chosen different parents, different people they want to incarnate. Some are going to be members of their soul family, some won't. Some growth and evolution that they want to do without having interference from somebody, like a previous lifetime kind of interference.
Is
So
there a set time frame? I know time is different in the astral realm, that once a person crosses back over, they have to wait X amount of eons before they incarnate again. You liked that word, didn't you?
Yeah. There's way many variables in answering that question as it's always like this kind of situation. The reason why is because I've come across situations where somebody's incarnated relatively soon, like within that first year after crossing over.
Oh, really?
But I've also come across situations where they've never incarnated again, and they don't plan to anytime soon. And then usually it's somewhere several years. But also you have to remember too that like we as souls have been around for eons, like long time, and this time that we've incarnated, it probably won't be the last. And so, if they wait 100 years or 500 years, in the big scheme of things, it's not really it's still a blink of an eye when it comes to time. So there's no real set time on that. That's a really good question, and that's what my experience has been. It could be anywhere from a few months to
decades,
thousands of years, or tens of thousands of years, or even more.
But
usually if they're going to and also remember, not everybody reincarnates, and not everybody reincarnates on this planet.
Do we know, have you ever checked to see how many different places a soul can incarnate?
Oh, it's infinite.
Is it? Okay.
Well, if you think about it, like our galaxy called the Milky Way has trillions of stars. So you can imagine how many planets around those trillions of stars. How many of those are inhabitable? Probably quite a few. But this is just one galaxy. If you look, like even the new modern telescopes out there, there's not just one galaxy. When they take those views or those pictures of space, there's like trillions of galaxies. So if our one Milky Way galaxy has trillions of stars, can you imagine all those other galaxies and how many stars and potential
trillions of
and those ones that can contain life and things like that. So there's whole bunch of different places that we can incarnate in this massive universe of ours.
Awesome. Anne-Marie Gadsby.
I should say that most of us have. Most people have incarnated on different star systems, and Earth is just one of the many that we've gone through in our soul travels of this beautiful, wonderful universe.
There you go. Anne-Marie Gadsby, she took your animal introductory course. She wants some advice. She wants, how does she keep going with her journey? What's the best way to continue from taking an introductory course? What would be your next step?
Yeah, so I do also teach animal communication workshops. So thank you, Anne, for taking that. I do remember animal communication is basically learning to channel animals. There's a way more to it. I actually have an animal communication certification full weekend workshop coming up very shortly in just a few weeks. But you do need to take the channeling levels 1, 2, and 3, the full weekend certification workshops first. And the reason why is because you have to get really good at learning to channel yourself and identifying different aspects of yourself. You need to learn how to channel your spirit guides really well, because your spirit guides are going to help you when you are communicating with animals. And then most people, when they're channeling animals, they're working with other people, humans, who have animals. So you need to know how to channel their spirit guides, which is my channeling level 2. And then you need to know how to do medical mediumship, which is channeling level 3, where you actually scan the human and find out what the root cause of what's going on, either from this lifetime, past lifetime, lineage, ancestry, you name it, all that kind of stuff. And then when we do the full animal certification workshop, then you're working with your guides and their guides and the animals and their spirit guides at super, super high levels on how to do things that are like far out of this world, anything you could possibly imagine with communicating with your animals. So I do recommend getting really good at the foundations and fundamentals of channeling by taking a formal training and learning how to master those skills. And it'll serve you in all areas of your life, not just channeling animals and communicating with them.
I could have really used that today while my cat was literally talking to me I was trying to watch TV, and he was literally in front of me, meowing at me. And I'm like, I know you're trying to tell me something. I just don't know what it is.
Telling you to turn the TV off.
Yeah, probably get off my butt. That's funny. Funny. We always talk about sometimes souls get busy in the astral realm doing something in the astral realm. How do I phrase this? What is society like in the astral realm? Is there a structure?
Yeah, there is actually, and it's definitely peaceful.
Yes.
There's no bickering. So interesting enough, like if you think about a soul level in the astral realm, the souls are actually very connected on a lot deeper level. Whereas here on Earth, we tend to think like there's separation where we're separated from each other. But in the astral realm, that doesn't exist. There is no like this separation. Yes, there are their own individual souls, but they're all connected, and they can connect telepathically to each other without like any problem. And there is a society that some souls go to school, some are like doing leisure stuff, some are actually have duties and jobs and things like that. Some are training, some are working with others to train them and teach them, or some are students. It's a whole entire society. Some are building things, some are creating things, some are practicing different skill sets like music or art or science or different things like that. So yeah, it's a whole society that exists. And basically, when a soul is in the astral realm, anything they can imagine, they can conceive, they can create. It happens instantly. And then what they do is they do that purposely to practice it, so that when they do incarnate, they can bring that down to earth and hopefully achieve that. We've been practicing the astral realm. They can achieve that here while they're incarnated.
Makes total sense. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dreams. Let's chat about dreams for a little bit. Reoccurring dreams, do they mean anything? Yes.
Pay attention to those. Reoccurring dreams are a sign that something's up. So there's a lot of variations on this. So the first thing, you could be dream walking. Dream walking is basically like astral traveling, but while you're in a dream state. And so if you keep getting similar things that happen in a dream walking state, where you actually feel like you're walking around and interacting, that's super cool. Please practice it. Please try it. And then try to, when you're in that state, try to be very hyper aware of where you can control your dreams, who you're talking to, what's going on, interacting, and all that stuff. And try to see if you can modify like what's happening, rather than just being a passenger on the dream and letting the dream take over. You try to be in control of your dreams. And then if you notice anybody in your dream, like again multiple times, see if you can talk and interact with that person. Oftentimes that is one of your soul family members, or a spirit guide. So you can stop, you can talk to them, you can ask them questions and interact with them. As for other concepts to do with this, is oftentimes if we're having reoccurring dreams, it's stuff that's surfacing from your subconscious that needs to be healed and cleared. So I had for years and years and years, I kept having dreams where I was chased by authorities, like an authority figure, like a police officer, security guard, anything like that. And I kept being chased and chased and chased. And it was because a lot of it was past life stuff that was like needed to be healed or cleared. And then finally, one time I'm like, you know what? Stop, no more running. And I faced it head on, and after that it still happened, but it subsided, and then eventually it went away, and now I don't have those anymore. But that went on forever. And then I also had another reoccurring dream about being in a dungeon, and like those balls with the spikes on it, and like like really really bad nasty stuff in a like damp dingy dungeon and all that dungeon. Yeah, it was just like brutal. And I kept having that again over many, many, many years. And I worked on healing and clearing that. So pay attention. If you're just having a random dream, not every dream has meaning. I want to make that very clear. Some dreams do, but a lot of the dreams don't. And so check with your spirit guides when you wake up and see if the dream that you just had actually has meaning. But if it's a reoccurring dream, it most definitely does have meaning, and there is definitely something going on. And that's why it keeps reoccurring until you either heal or clear it, or you do something different with you in your life. So good question.
Angie Stewart pipes in saying, does that go for bad dreams as well as just regular dreams?
Yeah.
So if you're having a reoccurring nightmare, it could be something you need to deal with.
Yeah, and it could come from past life stuff. It could come from phobias. It could have happened where something happened in your life and then it surfaced something that was subconscious that needs to be healed or cleared. So really good question. And by the way, if any of you are watching right now, this is called the Ask Ken Show. So this show is driven by you. So please type in your questions, ask any questions, anything to do with spirituality. And if you want to know more about me, please visit my website at channelinginc.com. And yeah, great questions on dreams. I do an entire section on this in my expert level, channeling level 3 workshop, where we take like an entire good half an hour on just this topic. It's really fascinating to me. I love it.
That's awesome. Back to spirit guides. We have our primary guide. Can that primary guide be switched out at any time? Or is he with you or they with you forever?
Yeah, so we can have a spirit guide that's with us for our entire life. Or we can have a spirit guide that's with us for a season of our life. And then when that season's done, that guide might step back. And then the next season, a new guide might step forward. And then that season, that guide might step back. And the next season, a new guide might step forward, and so on and so on. So we can have guides that are with us for our entire lifetime, or guides that switch out during different major seasons, major shifts in our life. And so in general, let's say somebody has 4 spirit guides. In general, there's one primary guide, and then in this case 3 secondary guides. And so I want to caution everybody, like, not things in the spirituality, things in the spirit realm and stuff like that, it's very rarely static where it's always like this. I'm not saying it can't be, but most of the time there's flux. So once in a while you might have and there's lots of different variations, a primary guide might become a secondary guide, and then that secondary guide becomes the primary guide, or another new guide comes in and takes over that primary spot, and then that primary guide steps back, or a new guide comes in and then that primary guide becomes a secondary guide, or and I could go over a bunch of different scenarios. So I try not to get people to get too caught up on like thinking that there's going to be a guide that's with you for your entire life. That hasn't been the case, or very rarely been the case, that I've noticed, not just with me but my clients. So some people want to think, oh, I have, like, people in the spirituality industry like to make blanket statements. Like, everyone always has a guide that's with them for their entire life. I'm like, really? Is that true? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And can you be open to the fact that maybe guides might come and go? And that's been the case the majority of the time with people I've worked with.
Yeah.
Is that oftentimes, though, over, let's say, a 10, 15-year period, they might have different guides. And I've also noticed that people that are very active in the spiritual community, they often tend to go through guides a little bit more frequently. Again, I don't want it to be an ego thing, like, oh, I'm going through all these guides. don't go there either. But it just happens, especially people that work with me, because they're constantly like upgrading and leveling up in a good way, in a healthy way. Oftentimes they'll have a new guide that helps them with this next phase of their evolution. And then as they continue to evolve and grow, then they'll have another guide that'll come in for the next phase of their evolution. And that one might step back because they've served their purpose and help them to grow. And then another guide comes in for the next phase, and so on and so on. But try not to get all caught up with like, oh, I'm constantly getting new guides. And that's very rare. We're talking, like I said, every few months to years you might get a new guide. It's not as common as people think.
I think in the 2 years, has it been 2 years now, Ken? Yeah, it's been 2 years. Over 2. Yeah, it's been just over 2 years. I think I've had, like, my primary guide has stayed the same, and I think I've had one other guide come in. One guide left, one guide changed.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So, yeah.
That's a 2-year period.
Exactly. Here's a good one that someone asked off during the week here. What's the difference between a spirit and a soul?
Yes, really good question. So a soul is the essence of who you are. It resides right here below your heart chakra and above your solar plexus chakra, kind of right where your sternum meets. So, your two rib bones at the bottom, where those bones meet at the very bottom, that's actually where your soul resides. And that's called the seat of your soul. And it is the essence of who you are. When you go lifetime to lifetime, you take that soul with you. And that soul is the actual part that incarnates from the next lifetime. And then when you die and you cross over, you go to the astral realm with your soul family. That is the essence of who you are. So when somebody says, oh, I see spirits in the house, or I feel spirits in the house, that's actually accurate as well. So what they're referring to is actually the overall essence of the spirit, of the person who's in non-physical form. And so there's hundreds of components that make us up, and that is all those components combined, including the soul itself. So it's like overall, that's their overall. It's kind of like if you see somebody and you go, oh, they have such like a good spirit about them, good vibe about them, good energy about them. That's what you're referring to, is the overall essence about that person. And the same thing is also true for non-physical spirits or souls.
Right. Makes sense. So remember, guys, if you're just tuning in, if we have people coming and going, hi. If you have any questions, just type it into I did it again, Ken. Type it into the comments, and we'll get your question asked as soon as I see them.
Make sure also to say hello. Even if you don't have a question, just say hello. Let us know where you're from.
Yes.
Just so we can shout out.
Do spirit guides have names? Some
do. Not all. The reason is because our spirit guides have so one of the things I take my students through is, in my channeling level 1 workshop, is I'll actually take them through a past life regression, because a lot of my students, they're like, well, I think I kind of believe in past lives. Like, I think so. Like, I believe in reincarnation, all that stuff. So I purposely have them go through and experience what it's like to live a past life. And that serves multiple purposes, especially for later on in my future workshops, like level 2, level 3, so they can relate to different things like mediumship and other topics that I cover on a more in-depth basis. But another reason why is because, just like you and I have incarnated many lifetimes, is it possible that your spirit guides have also incarnated many lifetimes? And the answer is yes, they have. And maybe hundreds, maybe even thousands of different lifetimes. So over those many lifetimes, have they had different names? Yes. Have they been different genders? Yes. Have they lived on different parts of the planet? Yes. And so on and so on. So when they're in the astral realm and they come to be your spirit guide, do they have a name? Some souls, some of them care about it, and some of them don't. Some of them are very particular and specific. Like,
yes.
No, I want to be called, Robert instead of Rob, or something
Sylvia.
Like that. Yeah, or whatever. and they're very particular about it. Whereas some other souls or spirit guides are like, I don't have a name because I've been so many names in so many past lifetimes. It doesn't matter. You can just make one up and give me a label, give me a name.
Yes.
You can call me Jane. Okay, that's fine. And then they're like, yeah, sure, good enough, whatever. I don't really care. And they don't care. But other guides do.
Yeah.
So the key is to really tune into them, feel into them, and then ask them, first of all, do you go by a name? And if you do, what's the name that you go by? And if you don't, can I just give you a label and a name for now, just so I have something I can call you? So the reason why I suggest to my students to give them a name or a label is more for their sake, rather than like the person incarnated, my students, more for their sake than the spirit guide's sake, just so you have something to refer them to by.
Awesome. Candace just saying hi from Okotoks. Candace Wheeler Suhai.
Hi, Candace. Welcome to the Ask Ken Show.
Carol Flatowick. I hope I got that name right, Carol. She says she gives her guides names. My new guide looks like a magician, so I call him Merlin.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's just the way. I mean, you can do whatever with your guides.
Yeah. And so I've had people like, someone's like, oh, my guide, it looks like Jesus, so it must be Jesus. And I'm like, and I check just to make sure, because it could be, but let me actually check.
Yeah.
And like, no, but it has a very similar energy signature to Jesus's soul, but it's not Jesus. You could check, and then they check, and they're like, oh yeah, you're right. But if you want to call him that, you can. But if you want to call him something else, or another person might be like, oh, it feels like Mother Mary's energy. I'm like, yeah, it does, but is it actually Mother Mary or not? And oftentimes it's not, because Mother Mary she wasn't an ascended master when she was incarnated, but she is now. Shortly after she crossed over, she became an ascended master. And ascended masters in general, not always, there are exceptions, but in general, they don't incarnate that often, and very rarely are people's actual spirit guides.
And they have very little to do with Earth. Is that correct? As far as like visiting and
right, not directly, yeah. And I'm just checking and channeling that. That is, for the most part, correct. Not directly. They'll help other spirit guides who are directly interwoven and intertwined with Earth and interactive with Earth, but not so much directly. But it doesn't mean you can't communicate with them. They're cool, but they're not your people's spirit guides usually and stuff like that.
Just because you brought it up, and it's an interesting question, can an angel be a spirit guide?
So a lot of people get this mixed up. Angels work on more universal level stuff. So remember, we just talked about the universe and all the galaxies out there. They work more on universal level, what's going on in context and things like that. Very rarely do they actually get involved with human and human affairs. Whereas your spirit guides, they deal with things like your personal life. You're upset because someone didn't invite you to a party, or, what should I do with this career path or this job? Should I quit? Like, angels don't deal with humans on that kind of intricate kind of level. They deal with them in more universal aspects. So sometimes rarely though, I come across somebody who for a season of their life, a short period of time, they have an angel who assists them. So they're more like an assistant. They can be, but it's actually not as common. And even me in all my journey, I do work with angels, but only on an as needed basis. So let's say I do like 20 one-on-one sessions in a week, and then I have, workshops in the evenings and in the weekends and things like that. Of all those times throughout a month, I might interact with angels once, twice, maybe 3 times, just on an as needed basis when I feel them that they want to interact and come in and get involved in a certain session or part of a healing session or whatever else I'm working on. But I don't assume that I'm always working with angels and assume that they're always going to do everything. I check with my spirit guides as to when it's appropriate and not appropriate, and they always let me know what to do with angels and stuff.
That's cool. That's very cool. Yeah. Can spirit guides be with more than one person at the same time? So can one soul be your spirit guide and my spirit guide?
So it's a really good question, because a lot of times people, they think that their spirit guide is somebody else who's alive. I'm not saying that it's not possible. Majority, 99.999 whatever % of the time, a spirit guide is somebody in the astral realm who is on the other side and a member of your soul family. Majority of the time, the 99.9999% of the time that I've noticed is that one spirit guide will help one person who's incarnated, and like, so they don't help. However, I have had it, like, say for example, a client comes to me and she's like, oh yeah, I have so and so as my spirit guide, and I check and I'm like, yep, and it's also my daughter's spirit guide, and I check and I'm like, not quite. Like, it doesn't, your spirit guide kind of watches over your daughter, but isn't your actual daughter's spirit guide.
Right.
So it's your spirit guide, whereas your daughter has her own spirit guides, and not to get them mixed up. But it's because your spirit guide loves you and is here to support and love you, and also what's going on in your family and your household and things like that. So it's very rare that I've ever come across where one spirit guide is the spirit guide for multiple people who are incarnated. Usually it's
my guide says I'm too much of a full-time job. They could never go to be somebody else's spirit guide.
I can see that.
Question that somebody asked, and it's your kind of I think your motto through all this since the last 2 years that I've met you is, can spirituality be fun?
Absolutely. And I think that's more of a choice than anything. Like, let's make spirituality fun. I think too many, don't get me wrong, there's times, to do the healing work, which kind of sucks, but it's necessary. There's times you do shadow work, which is sucks, but it's necessary. There's times when you're triggered and you're trying to figure stuff out. There's stuff with like, different kind of energies that might come in that aren't in your highest and greatest good that, I'll teach my students how to take care of those and how to deal with them, things like that. But in general, the other 90, 95, 99% of the time, let's make spirituality fun, everyone. So what is my slogan, Kevin? Spirituality is meant to be what?
Fun!
Spirituality is meant to be what? Everyone
Fun!
say with me? Fun! Right. So really just make spirituality fun. Try to make that decision. And interesting thing, I was telling my students this last weekend in my channeling level 1 workshop was there was like probably a good like 10 to 12-ish years where I was like really just serious about spirituality. I was like walking around like this, my head hung down, and I was just all like serious all the time. And then I remember the time I'm like, you know what? What if after like many, over a decade like this, I was like, what if I could do the opposite? What if I could just make spirituality fun and have a good time with it? And ever since I made that decision, my growth, my evolution just skyrocketed and it took off. So if any of you are listening today, please make a conscious choice to make spirituality fun. How can you have fun with it? Explore different things and be awesome with it. Like, just keep it light, keep it fun. I try to watch comedy every day because it's more than just what but it also, when you're having fun with this stuff, with spirituality especially, it kind of, in a good way, it bleeds out to like your family and your community, and it spreads out to your work life, and then also to the rest of the world, or just strangers that pass you by. Like, I have people all the time that are like, I don't know, what is it about Ken? I just want to know what is he doing? So people ask me, like strangers on the street or at an event or something like that, they'll be like, what do you do? There's just something about you. And they're attracted to me. Why? Because I have fun and I'm uplifting. And a lot of the great teachers like the Louise Hay and Esther Hicks and people like that, Abraham and things like that, they talk about raising your vibration. But what that does is it creates a magnet for others to be attracted to us, and they want what we have. And I think by doing this, it's, in the bigger picture, it's really going to change the world. And so I try to be very intentional about having fun with spirituality, keeping things light, keeping it playful, keep exploring different cool things. And I do this constantly on a day in, day out basis, and just have fun with life. Like, that's what we're here for.
Exactly. So we're going to go from having that everything's supposed to be fun to something really dark. So Carol asked, my friend's husband has tried past life regressions a few times, but he never sees anything but black and darkness. Is this a block? So let's generalize it. Can everybody, like, is there things that can happen that would prevent you from seeing past life regressions?
Absolutely, yes. Sometimes, so let's take it to, for a second, we'll put past life regressions aside for a second. And I've worked with several clients who've had major traumatic events in their childhood, and then they grow up to be adults, and then all of a sudden things start to surface where they start having memories of their childhood where, an abuse was caused or something like that happened, different kinds of events, but they had blocked it. And that's kind of a protection mechanism that we have, that a child can put into place, where they can block that traumatic event so that it's not like, it's a protection thing. And so the same kind of concept could also happen with past lives, where a major event happened in a past life and the person refuses to go there or refuses to go to anything in the past life. So what I found is the majority of the people that I work with can just go into past lives right away. And there are a few that I have come across where they struggle with going into past lives. And I do check on an individual case-by-case basis. Sometimes the person will have a block. I can help clear that block. Sometimes the person just doesn't know, like, needs to be walked through the steps of how to do it, and understanding of what they're seeing and witnessing it. Sometimes they think it's like a Hollywood experience, but it's not. It's totally different. And are they open to that different experience? It could be limiting beliefs. It could be a whole bunch of different factors. It could be different aspects of them just need to be in alignment for them. And it could also be that when I take my students through past life regression, I have them connect with their soul, because that's where your past lives are stored. That's like your memory bank, is your soul. So I have them, a lot of people aren't familiar with connecting with their soul. So I actually take my students through very specific processes on how to do this first. And then once they get comfortable with connecting with their soul, then from there I can take them into past life regressions. And then it can also be that some of our past life regressions are in our Akashic, like past life experiences are also documented in our Akashic records. And our Akashic records is like our library or book of life, where not just from this lifetime, but multiple lifetimes. So that might be where you're meant to be going to retrieve that information, is not your soul, but your Akashic records. So I can walk my students through doing it that way, through the Akashic records or through their soul, or both, or both. And ideally someone should be able to do it through either one, either or. So it's a very complex question, and it's on a as case by case basis in this case.
Sense. Well, Kim, we're coming up to the top of the hour. We're gonna go a little bit over, just because you disappeared for a few minutes and everybody just had to put up with me talking.
Yeah, I just kind of like what do you call that? Like transcended into another realm.
You did an astral travel into a different realm, so we had to bring you back. And I noticed you had to use a different, I think you might have thrown your laptop on the floor. I'm not sure. We'll talk about that later. But I know we have some events coming up, but where can people see you live if they wanted to come out and see an event live? Do you have anything coming up soon?
Yes, great question. So I have a whole bunch of events that are coming up. So I usually have anywhere between 10 to 20 events, active events at any time. Some are online, some are in person. So wherever you are in the world, you can be participating in my events. Those of you in the Calgary region, Calgary, Alberta, Canada, that's where I live. So you can go to my website, channelinginc.com, to always see any upcoming events that I have and see if it's in person or online. I love doing both. So our next one is coming up this Monday, and I actually have a guy named Kamal. He's coming in from British Columbia. He's going to be videotaping us for his documentary. So if you're interested in perhaps being on a TV show, come on out to the downtown Calgary on this Monday, August 28th, 2022. And you're more than welcome to participate. You can go ahead and purchase tickets. And then, of course, there's intro workshops, intro animal communication, intro channeling, and then my channeling level 1 workshop, and then once you complete channeling level 1, you're welcome to take any of the other ones after that. So, and If you want to book a one-on-one session with me, where I'll actually take you through and teach you how to do any really cool advanced channeling way beyond anything you can imagine, you can book it through my channelinginc.com website as well. And Kevin is going to be with us at the event on Monday, and then we'll also have another one planned coming up in the near future after that. So please check out my website or my Facebook business page, kenlewicki-channelinginc.com, and you just go under the events tab. I have a whole bunch of really cool stuff coming up.
And the August 29th one, which is Monday, is at the Ramada Hotel, downtown Calgary. Tickets, there's limited tickets available. The link is both on Ken's Facebook page as well as my Facebook page. Any questions, reach out. We'll try to answer them as quickly as we can. Until next month.
Yeah. So we meet the fourth Wednesday of every month.
That is correct.
You're welcome to ask your questions ahead of time, or you can go ahead and ask them anytime. So please do. This is tons of fun. I enjoy these. You make the show, and this is what I love about this. And all my workshops are all experiential, where I actually have you going through and learning how to do this yourself. And my whole goal on doing this is actually teaching you how to channel and empowering you how to do it without me even being there. And this show is like intellectual learning, where I actually talk about these different topics, whereas my workshops are super interactive, so I actually have you experience it so that you can really embody and go, oh, so that's what the astral realm is like. Oh, that's what my spirit guides are like. Oh, so that's what angels are like. And really actually learn how to do this yourself, and empowered so that you know how to do it.
That's awesome. So we will see everybody September 28th will be the next Ask Ken show. Till then, take care and enjoy your summer.